with what's going on at the club right now, particularly with another loss in the books, that 3-1 loss to Brighton at the weekend. That means it's 6 points from the first 5 games. That's 2 wins and 3 losses. You're seeing here, Brighton have now won 4 straight Premier League games against Manchester United by an aggregate scoreline of 10-2. Erik Ten Hag put this result down to small margins. 10 goals conceded just so far. Anyway, now doesn't get any easier. As you can see, Rob Dawson is at the Allianz Arena for the Champions League game coming up against Bayern Munich. But let's focus on what is actually going wrong, in your opinion, Rob, this season for Manchester United.
I mean, where do you start? As much as I said some nice things about United earlier in the show, the fact is that it's a mess, to be honest. On the pitch, even the games that they've won, the performances haven't been good enough. You could make a case that they should have lost every single game that they played this season. They were well beaten by Brighton on Saturday. It's now their worst start to a Premier League season since the Premier League started in 1992. Off the field, Ten Hag is dealing with a very, very long injury list, and not only a long injury list, key injuries to big players who are going to be missing for a while. There's a player versus coach rift rumbling on in the background between Ten Hag and Sancho that's not yet been resolved. Sancho has been removed from the first team. There's no timeline yet for him to come back. You've got Anthony, who's been given a leave of absence away from the club while he deals with obviously very serious allegations made against him by women in Brazil. There's the ownership situation at Man United is now approaching a year. Last November it would have been that the Glazers said that they were looking possibly to sell the club. We're no further forward with that. The Glazers aren't communicating with anyone. They're not telling anyone how far they're up to, whether they even plan to sell or not. Really, it's chaos. It says it right there at the bottom of the screen that it's chaos at Man United at the moment. And they desperately need a result somewhere, hopefully against Bayern for their sake, but really against Burnley in the Premier League on Saturday, just to kind of steady the ship. And I said the same thing before the Brighton game. They needed a result against Brighton and they didn't get it. The danger is now that things are going so poorly that they have a really poor result against Bayern, who will be heavy favourites to win that game. And then you go and play Burnley in the Premier League on Saturday night at Turf Moor. It's an incredibly awkward fixture and they get turned over again. And if it's chaos now, if we fast forward to possibly 2 defeats or 2 negative results, God only knows what kind of scrutiny will be on this team that following Monday, because this could get really, really messy very, very quickly for Man United if they don't do something very, very soon.
Just taking a look at more reaction over on X. Brighton have spent money. Brother, Brighton's annual wage bill is 48 million. Manchester United's annual wage bill is 200 million. Janusz, at what point is Erik Ten Hag under really severe pressure?
Well, I think he is now. I mean, thanks, Rob, by the way, for leaving me something to say about all the issues.
There's always more. There's always more.
No, it's good. It's good. I think. Look, I mean, on one hand, it was almost too quick, right? Last season, it was like 3 steps forward for Manchester United with what he had to do, and he left himself very little room, very little margin to improve that team. So to defend him, as you've said, the ownership, it's a toxic environment. Ownership issue has to be resolved, right? I mean, it's not his fault that he's had to walk into the situation with Ronaldo. Well, I guess, he made that decision, which I think ultimately is still right. But, the situation with Greenwood happened before he got there, but he had to deal with that. Anthony, never mind on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. Jadon Sancho, from everything I understand, it's not an easy one. He's certainly not playing the way he's supposed to be playing. And I believe Ten Hag that he's not pulling his load the way he's supposed to. So you're dealing with that while you're trying to make progress with a team. So that's on the plus side. On the minus side, again, he will be under pressure because ultimately, I think fans and everybody will forgive him how Manchester United done it last year. And I think there are times where they looked all right, but I haven't seen the Erik Ten Hag style of play, right? Whatever was promised, the pressing, the counter pressing, and making sure that they are the dominating team like they've been over the years, and we're used to it. And fans of Manchester United, Old Trafford has been a fortress. Well, look what happens. Brighton walks in and plays them off the park. Maybe not early in the first 15, 20 minutes, but a few adjustments, and these young players and Nobody's to some degree. I'm sorry, because Brighton's are not that. But, I mean, it's unbelievable. That second goal, 30 passes, and Pascal Gross looks like one of the best midfielders in the world, right? Putting it away while helping to build that attack. So we haven't seen that. Away, same story. Last year was an issue. This year they go away against the top six, and who they play? Arsenal and Spurs, right? Losses again. So I think he will be under pressure, because that's the that's the job, I guess. I just feel that he wasn't helped. And one thing against him as well is, I'm assuming he's making these decisions because some of the players he brings in, fair play. Every manager is going to bring somebody that they know. But, I mean, the Malacias of the world, even Lisandro Martinez to some degree, I'm going to go crazy under the radar here. He ought to try him in a defensive midfield, maybe, just maybe, because when he goes there, he likes it. He doesn't come back. So, Onana to some degree early. De Gea wasn't great in the beginning too, took him time. But, Anthony, they're great players. Eredivisie. Okay, and nothing is Ajax. Ajax showed that in Europe, kind of, they always had that. But, they're untested, to say the least. Premier League has a massive difference. And again, I'm going to come back to that. And I don't know if it's just Ten Hag's decision, but I have to assume that he plays a role. You talk about character. We always talk about Manchester United character of players. On the market, again, Kane, Maddison, Ward-Prowse, and Declan Rice. I mean, if you're looking for character, know-how, winners already to some degree, players that know how to get things done, players that make a difference, English players that Manchester United has been known for years. You have 4 of these players on the market. None of them, not one. Never mind, I mean, some have been talked about, and, with Kane, we can be here, there, or anywhere, but I would find a way, right? Because I think, Bayern Munich's play, is it today or tomorrow? Today is the game, right? Against United. I lost track who plays where, but we're going to find out soon enough how much they miss Harry, how much more Kane could have given over somebody like Højlund. So I think, he takes a lot of responsibility, and he knows it. He's a hard man. He comes across that way.
Well, let's get to his managerial style, Rob, because he's a no-nonsense manager. The players know they can't mess with him. We've seen countless examples, not countless, but we've seen a handful of examples already, including the Cristiano Ronaldo situation. But is there a question to be had as to whether this style suits the modern-day footballer?
Yes, definitely. And his approach to discipline within the squad is no nonsense. It's zero tolerance. And I can understand that, but it is a high risk, because if it works and you get the entire squad on your side, then you've got a group of players who are completely buying into what you want to do. And that history has shown serves managers very, very well. It's high risk in that if you keep alienating players, though, that will have the opposite effect, that these players have all got different relationships with different players in the dressing room, and dressing rooms tend to unravel very, very quickly. And so far, Ten Hag has appeared to get these big decisions right with Cristiano Ronaldo. He dropped Marcus Rashford. The players have all come out afterwards and said, we want a manager who is not scared of making these big decisions. But the problem is that if you keep doing it and you keep alienating players, then there becomes a point when perhaps the problem isn't the players. Ten Hag needs the dressing room. You asked Janusz before about is Ten Hag under pressure. I don't see that he is right now, because he's got the dressing room on side, but that is a very, very delicate balance to keep. Ultimately, he's asking these players to go out onto the pitch, on the training pitch and on the pitch on match days, and buy into what he's trying to do. And they'll only do that if they believe in him. And if he keeps having these very, very public rows, there will become a point, possibly, where the players decide that that's not the right approach, and they don't agree with it. There's already a question mark, I think, about how Ten Hag has handled this situation with Jadon Sancho. At the moment, the fans appear to have sided with Ten Hag over Sancho. But ultimately, this situation has come about because in a press conference after the Arsenal game, Ten Hag was asked where Sancho was, why he didn't travel. And instead of saying he just wasn't picked, he wasn't available, he had a niggle, we couldn't pick him, he said it's because his training performances weren't good enough. Now, once you make that public, Jadon Sancho has then decided to go public and say, well, that's not true. And that's where this whole row was erupted from. Ten Hag, whether he thought that was the right way or not, Ten Hag could have said after that Arsenal game, he wasn't available. He wasn't picked. He had a niggle. And none of us would have known anything.
Right.
We would have been none the wiser. And Jadon Sancho would never have come out publicly. And this whole row that's erupted would never have happened. So, yeah, I mean, I think there has to be questions asked about how Ten Hag handles his squad. What he would say, and what he did say to us in a press conference on Friday, is that he's making his decisions not for him. He's making it for the good of the team and the squad. He doesn't believe there's a way of winning at Man United without making these big decisions. And if that means removing Jadon Sancho and other players from the squad, even if that means short-term pain and short-term results are not good enough, he thinks that there is enough long-term gain to justify those decisions. That is where he's coming from. And at the moment, Man United are backing him to make those choices. The problem is that eventually results will tell all, and Ten Hag will not be allowed to carry on as Man United manager, losing game after game after game. At some stage, he has to string a run of results together.